Hello, guys and
What's
girls.
up? What's up? What's up, ladies?
What's up, bitches?
Guys, we're together.
I know.
We're in person. This is like our new and improved studio and couch.
Do you like the SOS setup?
I mean, well, like, this is not new if
No,
you're watching us on YouTube.
but it's on brand. The color scheme happening.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, it's best that we got like a grayish couch.
Yes,
and
it's perfect.
you guys like it. So go on YouTube, SOS with Molly and Alyssa, if you want to see exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
But if you're just listening to us, then hey, what's up? We love you guys too. We have a grayish couch set up, a new rug, SOS sign behind us. Go on our
Yes.
Instagram.
Looking cute.
Check us out.
So I feel like men or women who are listening to this women have experienced it, men have witnessed it. The mean girl phenomenon. It is very real.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So this episode, and it's such a stereotype, but it is very real. And like, I remember experiencing it as early as daycare, like before school and everything, but like in socialized environments, girls start to experience this type of behavior from other girls very early.
Yeah.
And then you assume, I remember being in middle school and assuming, like, looking at the teachers and being like, they're so lucky they're out of this. Like, when in adulthood, they're out of it. Like, they don't, and granted, middle school is its own hell, but it doesn't stop. Like, adult women are mean girls. This behavior is steeped in our society in a really ugly way.
I know. And it's something that's been around since the dawning of time. And I feel like interesting. I mean, we're going to go into kind of the psychology of it and our own personal stories because we have some fun ones to add.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, also go on our Instagram, share your stories with us, and we can all commiserate. Because
honestly,
I also have I was a mean girl too. Like
curveball. Yes.
It was one of those things, we'll go into it later, of like, if I can't beat him, join him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I've been on both sides of it.
Yeah.
And it is definitely something that is built out of survival, and you think you have to.
It is.
Built out of insecurity, and yes, insecurity and survival, I think.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I have to empathize with too. Is because as women, I feel like we've just, what else can we do but gossip? You know what I mean? Like, gossiping was a form of survival because women got together and we talked about what the men were doing so we can better prepare ourselves. And
yeah, because we also weren't permitted to have as full lives as men were. Like, and talking all through history, but like, obviously not being able to vote, but not even like being able to be in the workplace. And you go back, we weren't even able to own property and land without a man signing off on it, or being able, you just didn't have like a workplace to go to and these other outlets that men had. And then it breeds
was power. It was like women were going to have power over something, obviously, like we're smart. And this is how we found our power was through talking. But because I feel like it's been so stigmatized by men that we make it worse. You know what I mean? Like, it becomes a worse thing where we judge other women for doing it, and then it also just becomes like amped up. Yeah,
and the added layer of like, we are also taught with the patriarchy that if a woman makes it to a certain level of success or notoriety, or even if we're talking on the playground, and if a girl is going to get picked for the game at recess by the boys, it's probably not going to happen. And if it does, it's going to be only one girl. Mm-hmm. So we're taught that like there can only be one of us that comes out on top. There can't be multiple of us winning at the same time, because women don't win like that. They don't win like men do. And so that's also steeped in our head of like, and I think in corporate world, that's also why there's a lot of cattiness with women, where it's like, there can't be that many women at the top corporately either. And so we're told that. So then it becomes a thing of like, if another woman steps in, she's threatening your spot, even though there's also 6 other men up there, but she's not threatening their spot. She's threatening yours because you're the only woman in the room.
So then we're just, we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, it's so messed up.
Yeah.
So in an article on Psychology Today, the author, who's a female therapist, recalls a recent interaction that she had with a well-seasoned male therapist colleague, in which he stated, I would rather work all day with my male clients who are hardened criminals than lead a 1-hour group with teenage girls. And he went on to complain about the never-ending drama that he sees with girls in his treatment setting. And that is like, but that's real, because at the end of the day, the most psychologically twisted things to unwind are women who are manipulative and like vindictive. And that is some fucked up shit in your head. Whereas a man,
they're more scary than
it's scarier because it's so psychological, and you can't, and you can unwind around it and twist around the truth and the, oh no, I didn't say it. Passive aggressiveness is a bitch because, well, I didn't say that. No, I didn't mean that. And you can't even point to something like, but you did. Well, you implied.
You will not sleep at night.
Yes, it's so twisted.
It's kind of like badass.
Yeah, it is. Well, it also shows that women, like, when you are
fear
oppressed,
us, bitch.
like when there's some level of oppression or whatever, not only will we figure a way, not even around it, but like we'll figure out a way to get out these emotions. It might not be a healthy or good way, but women are smart as shit. And we play mind games, and we also know that other women, the way that they're thinking, and that's why
we had to be. It's like this vicious domino effect of like us needing to survive. So we had to be 10 steps ahead of our opponents. But who are our opponents? Because we can't play with the men. Well, they're women.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just dark.
So we want to dive into this. Like, why do girls have such a notorious reputation for drama, backstabbing, and betrayal? And how do we as women resist these limiting stereotypes and behaviors? And also, how on earth are we supposed to raise girls to resist them?
It's so interesting. I actually I watch Real Housewives a lot. Me and my sister are watching OC. What does it matter? We're just watching Housewives. I mean, no one's immune to just, because a lot of these women have teenage daughters, and like they're fighting with them, and I'm like, I don't know why. I'm like, I feel like I'd be so good with teen girls. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how I feel about like having kids, but like I'd want a girl.
Obviously.
But like teen years, I'd rather skip the baby. Like, I don't know. I'm like, it's cute, but I'd rather go right to teen years, because it's like when they have a personality and they get attitude, it's going to be like, I don't know. Maybe it's kind of fucked up, and like maybe it's more of like I want to heal my inner child in that way.
You're like, oh yes, you're a bitch now.
Yes. I don't know. There's something in it where maybe I just feel very confident in like what I needed when I was in those moments, and I didn't get. That I would know, or I think I know how I would approach that kind of dynamic. You know what I mean? Of like, I don't know. It's something that like in me, and maybe it is the side of like I was that attitude, mean girl at some point.
It's so shit. Like I always thought if I have kids, I feel for a long time now, I feel like I could definitely handle a girl. I always was like, I see myself as a boy mom more than a girl mom, but I used to actually be afraid of like, I don't know if I could be a good mother to a girl because of just like, because I just know how it is. Like, because of that reason, actually, the same reason that we probably could be good mothers to girls is the same reason I'd be scared too.
The fear of like fucking up. It's so precious. And it's such a, very precious time. Fragile.
Yeah.
So to start changing the climate for girls, we need to understand how girls are socialized. Girls learn from a very early age that they are expected to be emotionally expressive for every emotion, that is except anger. Yes. Girls learn the importance of relationships and the risks associated with expressing anger. If she makes someone mad, another girl might not want to be her friend any longer. So she learns to keep her opinions to herself instead of taking a risk that might cause a rift in the relationship. As a result, many girls never learn the skills they need to open, assertive communication or for effective conflict resolution.
That's the thing, conflict. girls are so, and I have been too, like so scared of conflict, but it's
We're
just like
conditioned to
we're
just be good
conditioned.
little girls.
And all the
Keep
other
quiet.
emotions, though, all the other emotions are accepted to express, but anger, because you're taught that you don't have the power when it comes to your relationships.
No,
It's
boys
like,
can be angry. We
yeah,
can't.
exactly.
Yeah, it's so interesting. But girls do get mad, obviously, and they do have strong opinions about things. So what ends up happening now? Some things she might try to talk about, some things she might try, like talk about this other girl behind her back and tell her friends to start ignoring her, spread a rumor about her that she is a slut, send her a mean and anonymous text to make this girl's life miserable without ever saying a word to her about the conflict. Girls learn to retaliate most effectively by harming what is likely most important to other girls, their relationships. Professionals call this behavior relation aggression, typically defined as the act of hurting others by manipulating or harming their relationships, which is so interesting.
It is, because we are taught as girls, even in school, like, indirectly, that your relationships are
Your
what
worth,
matter.
your value.
Everything is tied to what your relationships and what people think of you, what people think of you before they even know you, like what they're gonna think
like
of you.
they want to see you through the eyes of how a man would see you,
Or other girls.
or yeah.
Because in this case, it's like you're afraid of another girl not liking you, and then even worse, if they could turn other girls against you. Because in the mean girl situation, when I'm thinking about like school and these situations I experienced, it wasn't even about. It wasn't like they're trying to turn. It's women against women. It's just like.
Yep.
So we have some of our own memories and stories.
You go first.
Well, my first one is super short because I was trying to think of my earliest, and I remember being in daycare. This one's quick, but and I think I was like 4, and the babysitter had a daughter who was a couple years older than me. I think she was like 8, so she was like a big girl, and she was, it was her house. Her mom was our babysitter. She was like the cool one, and it was her. And then there was another girl who was younger, who was around my age, and me, and then like my brother and all the like infants and little boys. And then it were just a couple of us as girls. Nicole was the babysitter's daughter, and she was like cool, and she could do whatever she wanted because it was her mom and her house and all this stuff. And one day, our babysitter had a big pile of coloring books, like a whole bunch of different kinds. She put them in the middle of the floor, and she's like, "You guys can all like pick your coloring book." And there were multiples of certain kinds, and one of them was like a tracing coloring book. So there was tracing paper where you could trace the image, like you drew it yourself, and then but there were only 2 of them, and I think they were like Beauty and the Beast theme or something. So the little boys they didn't care, but all 3 of us wanted them. But Nicole, the babysitter's daughter, I don't know why she had it out for me. I swear she had it out for me because but I was 4, so take that. But she picked up all of the tracing paper ones. So there were like 2 of them, and there were 3 of us. And she says, "One is for me and one's for Janice." And then she wouldn't let me have one. And I'm like, and nobody
I love the name Janice too. And this is for Janice.
Janice and Nicole and Molly. And she made eye contact with me and was like, "You don't get one." And I was just like, and all the other kids are kind of younger than like 2 and below. And no one's really paying attention. The babysitter wasn't in the room. And I remember just being like, nobody's here to like, this isn't fair. Like it was very pointed at me, and it was just the girls. She didn't care about what the little boys were taking or anything. And I was like, that was my first memory of it. I'll loop it in with my next one quick because it was 6th grade. I remember being best friends with this girl solely because both of our names were Molly. And we hit it off though, and she was like my best friend. We used to have like this notebook we would write notes to each other in, and then put it in each other's lockers and pass it back and forth all day long. And we were really close. And then one of her friends moved back to town, and it used to be her best friend. And she moved back to town and came to school with us and hated that Molly and I were friends. It was like my best friend, and got all weird. Started turning Molly against me, like didn't want us to be friends. And I noticed Molly being different towards me, didn't want to be my friend very much, didn't want to like hang out around me. We're like 11. And then one day and this was around this was like the year 2000. You remember those books, Sweet Valley High? Or like books in the library about girls in high school being mean girls, basically. And going to my locker at the end of the day, getting my stuff to go home, and there's a note like shoved into the slots. And I open it, and it was like, it said a bunch of mean stuff. And then I remember it said, if you want to know what we think of you, go to the library and check out the book Sweet Blank High and add the word girl. Basically saying we think you're a Valley girl because it was Sweet Valley High. I didn't even know what Valley girl meant at the time. I don't think they did either, but apparently it was known that it was not a good thing. But I remember, like, I just remember getting that note, and then it was signed Molly and Jessica. And it hurt. Like, it was at the end of the day, and I just went home, and I was like, wow, they really like took the time to even like try to make a riddle and like, and what we think of you, like shoved it in my locker just to hurt me. Like, I already knew that you guys were kind of not my friends anymore, but why?
That's rough.
Fucked up.
See, I'm trying to think of like, so, okay. My first, I feel like, brushes with mean girl acts wasn't really like, I think it was definitely at elementary school. I don't know. I think I had a lot of confidence when I was a kid. I think we've talked about like us as kids before. Like I just had a lot of confidence. And I remember it was really easy for me to form friendships, and like I was definitely like a leader of it. And we wouldn't be like mean girls. It was just like I'm telling you right now, like this friendship group was based on The Mummy. Yes. I was like, you will not be my friend unless you've watched The Mummy and you're obsessed with The Mummy. And I had friends that were like, yes, yeah. So it's just like, I don't know. It was just one of those things where it's like at a young age, because I realized that kind of like power that I had because I was so passionate about something that I can get other people passionate about something.
When you really are that into something, you do become the lead. Because I had a friend group that was solely based around Spice Girls, and I was the ringleader because I was like, every recess we meet at the flagpole, we do the dances. I'm Scary Spice. And they follow.
Yeah, and I think so like when I that had something to do with it, right? Where I think I learned social strategy at a young age and social capital. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the power that I had. And there was a lot of complicit. There was nothing like I would attack another girl or like,
but like
talk
seeing it
shit.
happen.
But I would be, I would like not stop it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't great, but it wasn't until like 5th or 6th grade when I would be like lightly bullied for like body hair. Like I remember the mean girls of the school. Like I remember them and like this dude that was like friends with them who's they said I was an alien or something off the Sci-Fi Channel.
What?
Because of the body hair. I had like, a lot of hair on my arms and all this stuff. And like a unibrow. And I would just kind of laugh. It was like one of those things where, and also by the 6th grade, like the friendship that I built off of The Mummy started like dissipating. I started like growing up a little bit. And I was a social butterfly, so I had like friend groups everywhere. But like the mean girls were like the one friend group I didn't like break in with. Yeah. And they would bully me, but then they would just like it was very like Mean Girls the movie. You know what I mean? They'd be like, hang out with us, Alyssa.
Yep.
Because I would just laugh when they would make fun of me. Like it was very strategic for me.
Yeah, because they want a reaction. I remember my mom telling me, and I'd like come home from middle school and cry, and it was like, I know it's hard, but I'm telling you, they want a reaction, and the more you just like don't even just ignore them, it's gonna bother them. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like I'm telling you, and it works.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Because you just want a reaction.
Yep. And I would give it to them. And then it was also one of those things where it's like, you know what? Like, I learned social strategy. I was like, I wanted to be smart about this. It was like, I was purposefully becoming their friend. And I was like in their group. I don't remember like being a mean girl, but it doesn't matter. I was still with the mean girls, so I was still complicit. Yeah. And I remember a lot of fat jokes at other girls and me, ha ha ha, laughing along. Right. But it's not great. But it was one of those things where, again, like I knew the importance of what survival was like in a jungle, the jungle that is high school, middle school. And if I was going to survive, it was going to have to be that I knew all my insecurities. I knew exactly what people are going to make fun of me first. I knew it was going to be my body hair, my unibrow, my small boobs. They would make fun of me for. I knew that was what it was going to be, and I really quickly didn't care about it anymore. I mean, like, obviously, like, you're going to care about it a little bit, but I compartmentalized, and it made me not scared of being bullied for that anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it gave me a sort of I don't know, more confidence, because I was like, I didn't let this affect me because this is my strategy.
Right.
It's just joining them. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
High school, there's one, when I think of like an instance of me, this one's an interesting situation because it was the worst behavior towards me, but it didn't, because it just didn't affect me. Like what you're saying, I had that level of like, what? I know where this is all coming from. And also it helped that she wasn't actually able to turn anyone against me, but she was so overt with this behavior. So there's this girl I went to school with, and we were in high school. And we had completely opposite body types. She was a cute girl though, but she was shorter than me. She was super curvy. She had big boobs. She had a butt, but like we got teased for having no boobs and like having the figure of a 12-year-old boy.
It doesn't matter.
But she would like the things that I wish I had more of, she had, which was like boobs and a butt, and she wanted like my legs and my stomach. But she, one day, like, I don't even know, it was very stark. One day I came to school and I'm like 15 and I'm walking to my locker, and it's a place we all, like, my whole class would just kind of like hang out, all the girls and guys, and everyone sit there. I'm walking to my locker and she starts making like gagging noises. And I was like, what? And she's like looking at me and doing it, and everyone's sitting around her, like all our friends, all the, cool kids or whoever is just like looking at her like, what are you doing? I didn't say, I'm just like, look at her and walk by. And it continued all day, every day. It was a puking noise. And, to the point where
I'm like, oh, I'm getting sweaty.
It was
You're making me nervous.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. And I was like, but I knew she had like a competitive thing with me. I'm like, I get it. Like
So she was like a friend of me.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, because we also had hung out like in middle school. We were in a friend group ish together. Like,
yeah, I have a friend exactly like this.
Yeah, and but it was so specific, and it was at me, and it was always the same thing every time I walked by. And I remember one time, and all of our friends and everyone around, I think this is why it didn't like hurt me. It was more just like, what is going on? Because nobody went with it. Everybody was like, what are you doing? Like, I remember one time I was in the lunchroom around that time, and this went on for like maybe a month or so. And a girl had borrowed my shorts for gym, and she's like, oh, Molly, I have your shorts. And she threw them back to me. And Maddie was like, bleh, why are you even friends with her? And everyone was like, Maddie, like, what? So then we had volleyball,
I don't like this.
Volleyball tryouts, and we both made the same team. So we were both on JV or something. And I remember, and that instantly that day, she was nice to me. And then one of the girls in our group asked her, like, Maddie, what's up? Like, and now you're cool with Molly? And then she had said, like, well, we're on the same team now. We have to be friends. And it like just shut off. And it was very excessive. And she had people like, I remember one time I was walking to class after lunch with one of my guy friends, and he's like, I'm very sorry. Can I touch your butt right now? And I was like, what? And he asked, and I was like, yeah, okay. He touches it, and he just like, he's like, okay. And I was like, what? And he's like, Maddie was saying that you stuff your butt, and I just...
Ew, and he wanted to touch it?
Yeah.
Ew.
And I was like, and he's like, I can tell you don't. And I was like, no, I don't. Like, why is she was saying she was spreading a lot of shit. So it ended, and I was like, whatever. And then years later, I was in college, because the whole time I thought she was making that sound like, oh, you make me sick. That kind of like, it's Molly. I came back for a winter break in college, and my friend Nicole and I were talking about that. And I was like, yeah, remember how Maddie, like, that was so weird. And she's like, oh yeah, how she kept telling everyone you were bulimic. I was like, what? Because that never got back to me. And I didn't know at all. And everybody was kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what do you, and this is, like I said, years later. And I was like, what? And she goes, well, yeah, that's why she would do the puking every time she saw you.
Oh my
And
God.
I mean, that is appalling to me. And I kind of escaped it in the sense that that never got back to me. Like, no one told me that. And no one went with her and believed her. And it never really became a thing that hurt me. It was more like confusing and bizarre. And I also knew that she had a lot of insecurities about her body and wanted to be skinny. And I had like no shape yet. So I know it was a jealousy thing, was a body insecurity thing, but I didn't know that she was literally telling people I had an eating disorder.
Damn, that is fucking dark.
It is dark. It is dark. Hope you're doing well, Maddie.
Cheers, Maddie.
Cheers.
Maddie and Janet and Janice.
Janice and Nicole.
Oh my God. It's so interesting. Like, I think by the time I got to high school, I like found my theater group friends, but I was still like friends with everybody, like even like the popular crowd. I didn't like always hang out with them, but like everybody, I knew everybody.
Like morph around, or you could like float around.
I was a floater, 100%. But my home base was the theater kids, and I didn't give a shit if it made me like more nerdy. It didn't matter. Like I was getting more into myself, and like my best friends were there. But I do remember like, so I wasn't like my mean girl days were over. So I thought. But there was one, and I won't have to say that. I won't say the name. I don't think I even told you the name, but I just talked about her before we started.
Oh, okay.
So I'll tell you who it was. She follows someone else.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It's actually her. I want her on the pod, actually.
Yeah.
But I remember we were doing like a theater competition, and this one friend, who I thought she was my friend, I don't know. I was coming with my best friend to Emily around a corner on this campus. We're all like spending the weekend like doing theater competitions. Big campus, probably Rutgers or something. And I come around the corner, and she was making fun of my scoliosis.
What?
Because I have a curve in my back that makes my butt stick out a little bit. It just, I have
That's
a curve.
A good curve to have.
But it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's a fucked up scoliosis. Right. But she was just making it like I was doing it on purpose. Like I stick my butt out all the time. She's like, so she was doing that to and people were like laughing, like friends of mine. And she was just like, remember standing up and like, oh, Melissa, this is my butt, or something like so stupid. I remember I had never ever experienced bullying like that.
Yeah.
I've had like comments thrown my way, but I had never until that moment experienced like in front of a group
mocking you in front of a group.
Yeah, I did pee my pants in the 3rd grade, and I think someone was like, Alyssa, psst, and then people were laughing. I don't know. I don't know. That I guess I got over fast, but I think high school, like that was like 3rd grade. Like high school is like, that, I don't know. It hits deeper.
It does.
So I remember I was crying after that. Like that really hurt me.
Oh,
but like
mean.
I still got over it. Like I still,
getting over it is.
It was still that mentality of like, I don't know. I never let it affect me like that hard. I forgave really easily.
Yeah, I remember like by the time high school came, these things that happened, they would sting, but then it would just, actually the Maddie thing didn't even sting. I was just like, huh? Yeah. I think it would have stung if people went with her on it. But so I was at volleyball practice, and we would practice before the school year started, like a couple weeks before. And there was this new girl, and I was always so connected to when there was a new kid, because we traveled enough growing up to where I always empathize with that person, especially at the age of 16. You're jumping into a high school in a small town, and you don't know anyone. Like I saw her, and we all know each other, and we're jumping into practice, and we're partnering up. You know, I was like, okay, my heart went out to her, and so we chose partners for a warm up, and I was like, "Do you want to be my partner?" And I could see the relief on her face, like yeah, sure. And she was a really nice girl, and we're just like doing some like volleyball warm ups back and forth. And this girl who was on the team, and this girl was not, she was super mean to other girls, but it was very transparent. She was very insecure, and she was like a bigger girl. She's like a bigger redhead girl that was just like, and we're all awkward at that age, but she was like very insecure in her body. And she was like this a lot. So we expect this from her, but also she had a lot of anger about girls who, I I don't know, girls that didn't look like her, but also girls who boys flirted with. And I remember I'm just like warming up with this new girl and we're having a good time. We're talking. And then Carrie, the mean girl, standing, she looks at the new girl, Lindsay, and she's like, ew, why are you warming up with her? And this girl, and I already know, I'm like, this girl's new. So she doesn't know, maybe I am a terrible person. She doesn't know who these people are. She's just like, I don't know. And then Carrie goes, nobody likes her except the boys. And just like said it, she was so like, and I could see this girl, Lindsay's face, like she didn't do anything, but I could see her, like the doubt cross her face of like, oh, because she's trying to navigate a new landscape. Like, is this a girl I shouldn't be hanging out with, or like what's going on here?
Wow.
And I was just like, so we finished our warm up. My mom picked me up, and it was like we're doing 2 a days, so I had to go back like an hour later. But she picked me up, and I remember being like really hurt by it. And I was like, Mom, Carrie, like I was just trying to make this new girl feel good, and Carrie just like told her that nobody likes me and only the boys like me, and it stuck with me though. And Carrie would say stuff all the time to people. This was like freshman year. And then I remember senior year, the week before we graduated, I was sitting at a table after lunch and Carrie was there. And all my guy friends, that also probably pissed her off. Most of my friends were guys. But a random girl walked in the lunchroom far away. She couldn't hear us. And Carrie said something about her boots and was like, those fucking fur boots, like who just something really mean. And no one ever stood up to Carrie. And I know I was emboldened. I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm leaving town. I'm going away to college, and we graduate in a week. So I really don't give a fuck at this point. Yeah. And I said, I remember I looked at her and I was like, Carrie, why do you do that? And she's like, what? And I'm so proud of this moment, because I really like went in and I was like, you do that all the time. You say mean things about girls and to people for no reason at all. Why do you do that? And I just like let the question hang, and she was so taken aback, and she was like, well, her boots are her. And I was like, why do you do this to people? And then the bell rang, and we like get up and we go to class, and like that whole next week, well, after like my guy, everyone at the table was like, holy shit. Like I remember my friend, Blake and Randall and Tyler, like, and Scott, I remember all of them coming up to me and being like, dude, no one ever says shit to her. That was fucking awesome. Like no one ever said. And it's like when you really put it at someone and be like, why do you do this? Yeah. Just why? There's not really a reason. Yeah. When it comes from that place, well, the reason is I'm insecure and I hate the fact that other girls I think are prettier than me or whatever it is, but they're not going to say that. Mm-hmm. And it just like shut her up. And I was like, I wish I had said this like years ago.
That's amazing. That's such a like, oh my God.
I felt so empowered. I was just like, but again, it was because I was moving away forever in a week.
Yeah,
you know, I'm like,
shit. Yeah. Oh my God. That's amazing. So my other story is interesting, because I was like, I never had another bout with mean girl, you know, being a mean girl. So I thought, but so it's interesting. So me and my best friend from high school, Emily, we were, you know, obviously very close, and we all had the same opinions over everybody. Mm-hmm. And we had this guy friend of ours, Alex, who we loved. He was younger. He was also, you know, a theater kid, and he was really funny. He's like a little brother to us. And he liked this other girl who was in the musical with all of us. And this one girl, she is a very sweet girl. I don't know if I should say her name, but it's
really.
So I don't want to blow up her spot.
I'm blowing out all the names. Google them.
I won't say her last name, but it's just so funny that.
Yeah, that's really weird.
And I would say like she was one of the popular girls, but she just had a really pretty voice. So she was in the musical. Like not a lot of like the cool kids were in the musicals. And another, also one of her friends who's really cool. I won't say her name. I'll just say her name is, she, really cool. I remember her being good friends with her in middle school. And then like, she got like too popular because she had like curves and she was such a personality. Like she would say like whatever the fuck, and like everybody. Yeah, she was cool. But we were always like friends, but nothing close. But anyway, they were in the musical as well. Alex had a crush on Molly, and would tell us that they would be like texting, and like she liked him too, but she wanted to keep things secret because he was a nerdy theater kid and stuff like that. So he would be really hurt. He would tell like me and Emily like how hurt he would be that like she just didn't want
people to know.
Yeah, like she would like not, which is like, and I should have used my brain. I don't know, whatever. I don't know if it actually went down, but we were just like, oh, well, fuck Molly. You know what I mean? Like, fuck her if this is the truth. So she was like dead to us. Not like we would ever go up to her and say anything. Like, it would just be us shit talking about her, like, to ourselves. So we thought, but like, we would hear kind of stories about her from parties, like getting too drunk and like doing something, you know what I mean? And we remember that and we would laugh about it to ourselves because fuck her, she fucked her friend over.
Yeah.
And no, you know what I mean? I don't know what it is. It's like, it would never be to anybody's faces, but like, we were mean, like, you know what I mean?
To each other about other people,
And anyway, so on Facebook, only in pictures with ourselves, I remember there was one picture, and it was like a theater part. I don't know. It was like pictures that only me and Emily and maybe like our mutual friends, like theater department wise, had to have been. In the comments section, we had an inside joke about Molly. And it was like a nickname that I think people had known about Molly. I don't know what I can't remember exactly what it was. But it was like one of us, I think it was me, had said to Emily using that like inside joke nickname that Molly had. And it was like, it was like in a very obscure photo album on Facebook that like, you'd have to like really search for.
Yeah.
So that was like senior year of high school, right? That this comment was like made on Facebook. Jumped cut to freshman year of college, like fall semester, I get this Facebook message from E, the friend of who I was friends with, who was really, really cool, being like, Molly and I saw that comment on Facebook that you made. We know she is so upset. She's crying. How dare you? Who the fuck do you think you are?
It was like a year ago?
Yeah, or like, 6 months to a year. And I deserved it. Like this, like she got mean. I don't know if she got like personal, like fuck you. I don't know if she called me any names, but she was just like fuck you. But probably bitch. You know what I mean? Like I can't remember. It was just a scathing message of like, you hurt her and go fuck yourself. Yeah. And I remember calling Emily and I was just bawling. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I can't even imagine what she must have felt reading a comment like that. And like from people who she would never believe would like think these things about her. Like we were like sweet as pie theater kids that like you wouldn't think of. And it was for like it wasn't just we were singling her out. Like
but you look at it from her perspective, and she doesn't know that. And like you said,
he could have been lying. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like boys lie, everyone lies. Like he could have just been lying that she was keeping it secret. Maybe he just had a crush on her and she wasn't giving it back.
Exactly. I'm like, what if that was the
and now this poor girl.
Yeah.
But I messaged E back and I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm so sorry. You're right. My grandmother died the day before.
Oh God.
And I remember I shouldn't have used it, but I did. I was just like, I'm not in a good place right now, but like, I am so sorry. Like, I don't remember if she messaged back, but I had never felt that kind of like guilt. And I just felt like I deserved it. I really did. Like
That's because you're not a mean girl at heart that you even felt that way. Like that's a good person's reaction.
I was still complicit with a lot of things, right? And like I recognize my role in that, and it's something that I've always been sort of cognizant of for the rest. Like I remember in college after that, you know, reading not great messages about me accidentally. From my best
I remember you telling that story.
Messaging.
What episode was that?
Oh, I don't know.
That was like embarrassing stories.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Embarrassing stories episode, because it was embarrassing for your friend, but like you.
Well, she actually doesn't know to this day. Maybe it was another story and I'm forgetting it.
When you were in the room with your college friends and one of them texted like, "Don't tell us about this party." That wasn't Mean Girl though. That was it was a different situation, but I thought
that was fun. Yeah, that was like this was another. Maybe I didn't say this story. Like I had I actually get the text message, but I was on my friend's computer doing homework, and then it was getting Facebook pings, and I guess I shouldn't have opened it, but I was here. I was like, "What the fuck is this ping?" And it was from another kind of mutual friend who was dating my ex at the time, and they were friends. And I just saw messages like making fun of me, being like, "She's so look at herself," because I took selfies and I like cared about my appearance.
Yeah,
like
because we're fucking cute.
Yeah, it wasn't the first time, like, because I'd be friends with so many different kinds of girls too.
Yeah,
like
I know,
girls that
me
were
too.
uber feminine and girls that weren't uber feminine and that weren't into like makeup or something like that. So it's like it wasn't new to me to be made fun of in the way of like being feminine.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that when you read it, you're not like, ooh.
Yeah, it hurts 100%. Still doesn't know to this day that I know that she said that. It's fine. It's something that like I myself just got over. You know what I mean? I understood where it was coming from. A lot of insecurity.
That's the thing is like when you really realize, I think it's a combination of knowing who you are, combined with understanding where they're coming from. Not like, oh, I get more like, okay, understanding who you are as a person. If you have that sense of self, plus you understand that it's out of insecurity, then you really are immune to being affected by it. You know, you're not immune to like, you read something like that and you're like, dang, like that sucks. Yeah. But for it to really cut you down, you have to, that's why it's worse in middle school, for example, when you are still figuring out who you are and you're still trying to claim who you are and your sense of self and figure it out for yourself. Because once you really know that about yourself, it's a lot harder to get to you. But, it's like now things can happen. Like I've had recent experiences with some mean girls where I'm just like the adult women where they're so afraid of confrontation or actually just being direct, where I'm always that way. Like it's not always comfortable, but I've always been like, I'll talk to you about this. Do you want to talk about this? And it's like, it goes straight to passive aggressive Instagram posting or like manipulation and just like dirty shit that I'm like, you're a grown ass woman, like grow up. I mean, and I see it all the time.
This is it's cliche and it's the basis, but it really is hurt people. Yeah. And there's no one that will be more hurt than teenage girls, and no one will be more hurt than like grown ass women who like have never grown out of their insecurities and want to make it everybody else's problem.
Exactly. And it's just like, when, you're just, from my perspective, I'm like anybody that is just like, subtweeting or like putting captions in their photo, hoping that someone will see it, or like making sharing a meme that's directed at one person, or like, honestly, that shit does nothing for me. But the fact that you're making such an effort to do this only shows how like in your head I am. And that's actually like, you're just showing your cards. Like that's embarrassing for you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I want you to go in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll do an episode on it. But
the fact that like you have to deal with this now, and we're in our fucking 30s. Like we're into our 30s now, and it's still something that like it still happens. And
then you watch it. I don't know, like a 12-year-old me would be hurt. Maybe a 15-year-old me would like say some shit back. And now a 33-year-old me is like, you and your life is so sad. And I'm like, I just don't care. Like, I just don't care. I know who I am. I know what I've done, what I didn't do. I'll talk to you about it, whatever you want. But like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're pathetic. We'll do an episode about the issues that I'm talking about, because obviously talking about something specific.
Yeah.
But the mean girl behavior essentially comes out in a lot of ways. And actually, I'll go into this because this is like what we're talking about. Because unfortunately, as women, we know that this behavior doesn't stop when you enter adulthood. In a New York Times article entitled "Dealing with Grown-Up Mean Girls: The Multitude of Ways That Grown Women Still Engage in Passive-Aggressive, Manipulative, Mean Girl Behavior," they listed these ways. So they include giving the silent treatment. And, that's been since like middle school, elementary school. It is like someone stops talking to you and they convince other girls to stop talking to you, and no one will speak to you. It's so obvious, but it's like, no one's going to address what happened. But grown women do that too. What I see most is hiding behind social media. So that's what I was just talking about. Passive aggressive posting. also like not liking someone's recent posts or not viewing their stories in hopes that they'll notice. That's such a female thing, honestly. And I am like, the reason that that's so prevalent is because women, we know that other women will notice this. I see women doing it a lot with guys too. Like maybe he'll see that I'm not, and I'm like, it's a lot less likely that he's going to notice that. But we know how women think because we are conditioned to think that way. So it's like the grown woman that I was just talking about recently will do that. That's like the game, the only kinds of games she'll play with people. She's like, has an issue with someone, she would never say it to their face. It's Instagram posts, it's captions, and it's just like, how sad. Like you just really are just hoping they see it, and then you feel some type of like, I don't know, but that's a level of emotional immaturity that is just like you never dealt with some really deep shit.
Yes.
That is one. And also confusing, and I think we've all done this. I've definitely done this, but confusing venting with shit talking. A distinction is who you're venting to. Like if I'm talking to you, I'll vent and shit talk with you, but I know that even when I cross a line and I'm just like, okay, now I'm just being like a bitch about this person because I'm mad, I still know I can trust you, and it's like,
oh yeah.
There is a difference.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's
love
like
shit talking though.
100%. Like sometimes people deserve to be shit talked. Like. Yes. Sometimes I deserve to be shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes,
like sometimes you just like people need to vent, like people do need to vent, and sometimes like none of us are immune and none of us are perfect. So to like, and I think that's what I had in mind, especially when I was like reading the texts of my friends. I was they were saying about me. I was just like, you know what? I kind of like deserved it. And not about like my being confident, but like it's not like I've never said a bad word about them before. Right. You know what I mean?
And like, there's a line. Whatever. Like, what is the line? Is it like? Because there's a lot of shit I have said and done, but that I actually stand behind because it's true.
Exactly.
Versus when you're so mad, you're just throwing low blows about someone. Because that's more shit talking to me than me coming to you and be like, listen to what this bitch did. Then she did this. Then she did this. To me, that is venting because it really happened. But if I'm then going to like, well, her fucking face, then I'm like, okay, well, that's shit talking. Even if it's true, it's also shit talking because it's an opinion based. But if I'm telling you what someone did or said or how they are, that's real.
Yes.
But it's.
I mean, sometimes you just got to get shit off your chest.
Yeah, and just two people. I think it's also a thing of like who you vent to is who that becomes the most important thing. Like, who do you trust this person?
Yeah, 100%. And choose your people.
Choose them wisely. There's some bitches out there, some messy bitches.
Yeah.
Also, we have some groundwork for how we can work to channel our anger, like to avoid engaging ourselves in this mean girl behavior, because it's really anger that we're not taught as females to handle. And to channel it in a healthy and effective way instead of resorting to passive aggressiveness and manipulation as society has taught us. That same New York Times article, and we're going to link these in our show notes, the articles that for this research, reminds us that anger is an emotion that tells us something is wrong. That's a good thing when we know how to process it effectively and then communicate it appropriately. So paying attention to the feeling when we have it, you're angry about something, and then asking ourselves a few simple but powerful questions is essential to our well-being. Whether we are the ones getting quiet or the ones being mean, these questions to ask ourselves are, like when you start to feel this, the stuff that would drive you to be passive-aggressive or manipulative or whatever, why am I actually angry right now? Do I feel as if this person or the situation is trying to take away my sense of worth? Usually do I feel like they have power over me or it has power over me or they are trying to devalue me? Do I feel as if I can speak out? And this, in a lot of situations, especially professionally, no, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, when it's no longer like, school ground type shit or just between friends, when it's a professional level and that's a whole level of stakes that is so difficult to maneuver.
Exactly. And then so do I feel as if I can speak out? If not, why not? So if you ask yourself these questions, it's supposed to, according to the New York Times, supposed to give you a little bit of a moment to reflect enough to, you know, your anger is not going to go away, but it should get you to the point where you understand yourself a little bit more, to where you won't be driven to manipulate, be passive aggressive, do some childish silent treatment shit, and either work through it yourself or decide this is worth a confrontation in person. I'm going to bring this to this person.
Yes. I mean, just even, you know, hearing that, it's so interesting. Like, the shit talking that me and Emily did in those Facebook photo.
The comment.
Yeah. I'm wondering if actually it was like MySpace and not even Facebook. Like, that's how, like, I think it was actually a MySpace fucking picture. No, maybe Facebook. But even because, like, my reasoning there has always been like, oh, well, she is being mean and dismissive of our friend and pretending like it's like a dirty little secret that she doesn't want out, which I don't know if that was true. But there could have been so much more behind it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we were insecure because she, like, was more popular and went to parties all the time and, like, got the lead in the musical, or, you know what I mean?
Like more stuff that didn't have anything to do with Alex that you guys made
that, like,
you jump on board.
We just felt like, you know, it'd make ourselves feel better to put her down, and, like, we would never in our wildest, like, actually think she would write it. Like, we just thought we were so clever and, like, funny, and, like, that no one would actually find that. You're wrong and stupid. But, like, there's so much more beneath what you actually, the surface level of why, if you're at that level where you're shit talking, like, but it's all surface. Like, you could be like, well, you know, with that chick from volleyball,
Carrie.
Yeah, like, Carrie could have, like, surface level been like, well, I just think they're ugly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like,
you're
those
not my
boots
friend.
Are
ugly.
It
like,
could have been like so surface level, but, like, deep down.
Right. You thinking that those boots are ugly
insecure.
is not an explanation of why you're angry. Why are you angry?
Exactly.
You're angry that the boots are ugly? Because it's like, why am I actually angry right now? You're right. Because you have to go beyond the surface of, like, well, I'm angry because they said this about me. Okay. Why are you really angry? You're angry because what they said hit a nerve. Yeah. And what did they say? And what do you feel about yourself? Like, it's not fun to reflect like that, but that's we're not taught to, and we're not taught to deal with our anger. And if you get down to it and you're like, no, this was fucked up. It's not me being, oh, this is a me like, if you're really upset about something, then be an actual adult human being and talk to that person.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, the fine line between shit talking, when you're in a venting, you know, frame of mind, when you just need to get something out because of their behavior, and when you're just being bitchy. And I don't know, especially being in the theater department, like, I understand what bitchiness is when you're just being a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Again, like, I am not immune to being complicit bitchiness, like, forever. You know what I mean? It's like, you just trust the people that you're being with.
Yeah, of course.
But this is something, and I've always learned this since I got caught with those Facebook comments. It's like, I am not immune to it myself. Like, I cannot expect myself to be so hurt if I kind of get the same thing back.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's just what you kind of have to reckon with.
Yeah,
you know what I
and
mean?
there's also, like, knowing. I think being able to go in on someone is kind of a good quality, being able to. Not that you do it all the time or whatever, but, like...
like, you can read somebody.
Yes.
It's just like, I fucking have your number.
Like,
you know what I mean?
I remember, well, Kip, one of my friends always says, because I've known him, like, 7 years, or, like, a really long time, someone I really trust, so I will be myself around him. I will say things that I'm just, like, wouldn't say to anyone else. Definitely wouldn't say to anyone who doesn't really know me. And I just go in, I'll make comments, like, in humor, but, like, he's always like, he, like, cracks up and he's like, you be getting people, like, hardcore, like, you will dig in on someone and that shit is hilarious, but, like, you go hard at people, like, just to me, like, in conversation, when I'm just like, I'll make a one-off thing and I'm saying it jokingly, but I'll be, like, digging at someone, you know? And I remember him saying too, because he like laughs at it and he's like, you can fucking get someone. I don't think people know.
But that is how we're conditioned. We're so fucking smart. You cannot fuck with us. It's like women and gay men. You know what I mean? Like, how bitchy. It's like, because of the trauma that we've gone through as growing up and adolescent, like, we have everything. Like, we are so fucking smart.
Yes.
And it's our gift and our fucking curse because we do it to each other.
I know. It's just like crazy.
Intimate. It's like
yeah.
we'll
I mean, I like say
we'll
about
put our claws off,
like,
claws out for them too. But like, it's just, it's like
he was just like, you need to be like, you know, I think it's hilarious and it's great you do it around me, but just like, be careful who you let this out around because like you go hard. And I'm like, okay, I need to be careful.
Not around me.
I go hard.
Okay. So when you're in that state of trying to figure out, like, is this worth it? You know what I mean? Like, what am I saying about this person? And like, where is this actually coming from? Here are some of the main things to remember in these moments. Value dignity over politeness. Being kind and polite is important, but when we're interacting with someone who is denying our dignity, kindness is not called for. Demanding our dignity is. When we are grounded in our sense of worth, we can more easily value others' dignity while projecting authentic power, empathy, and grace. So it's like, again, hurt people hurt people. So when you're noticing, especially in a professional environment, someone being fucking so petty and bitter for no reason, you can understand that they're not moving forward with dignity. They are not projecting their power or empathy or grace. And like,
and when you decide, if you decide to confront somebody about something that's bothering you, put your dignity before politeness, because politeness, when you're angry with someone, is passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
Because if you actually feel you're actually angry, but I'm like, no, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. That's being quote unquote polite, but that's passive aggressive.
100%. And like, what's so interesting is that girl who messaged me saying like, fuck you, you hurt my friend. Like, she could have easily talked shit about me on another Facebook and maybe I would have found it and like stooped to my level, but she didn't. She went right to me.
Yeah.
And
bravo.
She made me cry.
I would clap.
And she went to bat for her friend.
Yeah.
I to this day, I'm like, damn, I wish I wish you could have figured something out. I hope they're both doing well. That's a good one. That's a good friend. Yeah, but she could have been polite about it and like talking to me.
Right.
She didn't, and she didn't need to.
Yeah.
Listen to criticism. When we make mistakes, we must be able to accept criticism without automatically labeling that criticism is mean. 100%. If someone gives us feedback that feels disrespectful, then we need to address that. But if someone critiques us because they want the best for us, that's a gift. And that's exactly what I took from that whole thing. Like, she gave me. I don't remember if she was disrespectful. She could have been, and I could have deserved it, but I don't remember it. But like, it was a gift. Like, I was humbled. Like, and I 100% should have been humbled. That's
the thing, is that women, we're so used to passive aggressive behavior from other women and probably from ourselves at times, that when somebody says anything, criticism that is coming from love or is valid or anything, women are really quick to be like, well, that bitch, what does she think? And it's like, listen, not everything is mean. Not every criticism is mean. So if we think, there's a lot of angles of this. We're talking about like how to not be a mean girl yourself, how to deal with women who are being mean girls, and also how to not assume that certain behavior is mean girl behavior.
Amen. 100%. Because there's so many different levels to this. And you have to distinguish the difference, because we know what's fair and what's not fair. It wasn't fair for that girl to make fun of my scoliosis. Like, that is like fucked up.
Yeah,
but it was fair for this girl to attack me for going after her friend. 100% valid. When things are true, like what E was saying was 100% true. I guess my scoliosis is true, but I wasn't doing it. She was saying, she wasn't like her scoliosis. She was doing it like, she was making fun of me like I was doing it on purpose to get attention. Which I wish. My butt is like suspiciously bigger than, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's also one of those things added to it. So
suspiciously.
It's just, it doesn't make sense with my body. There's a difference between shit, and I could have been petty and called out and been like, and retaliated against her for coming after me. But I can't deny when what I was faced with was true shit. And I'm just thinking about your situation. It's just like, I don't know, like, you can tell where someone's at when they get that information.
That's
you know what I mean? Like, they can be
like,
petty back. I could have been petty when I got read those messages between my friends. But I wasn't. I moved on. I kept it to myself. I realized where it came from, and I moved on. Like,
there's so many things that I'm like, if really, like the situation I'm in right now, I'm like, at the end of the day, if it comes down
kept it to myself, except for now, by the way.
if it comes down to it, and I have a reason to say what happened and why what I did, what I said, what happened to me, why I feel this way about this person, I will say it. But like at the end of the day, like I'm not at your low level of pettiness and manipulation and passive aggressiveness and narcissism. Like I'm just above that. So if you want to talk to me about things, I'll talk to you. Like I really will, because I am an adult and I have respect for humanity and myself. So I will do that. I will tell you why things happen. Like, but I also stand beside my behavior in situation. When you were like below the belt is like, okay, I'll stand beside that and I will apologize.
But sometimes people deserve
the
below the belt shit.
For sure.
Like I
for
did.
sure. But then there's things where I'm like, okay, well, I can understand why you might be mad, but also I stand beside this. Like, yeah. I do.
It is one of those things where, and that's why the questions that to ask yourself that we went over before are so important. Like when you're thinking about whether you said what you said and when it came out, whether it was valid or not, you had to speak to your anger and speak to whether or not it was worth it, and if your self-worth was was challenged. Or questioned as valid. It's you also have to face your fears. We can't undo generations of cultural baggage in a day, but we can start small and practice. Remember, conflict is going to happen, and we are all capable of handling conflict with dignity. And when we find ourselves in infuriating situations that threaten to derail us, these prompts can help us get back on track. This is really hard to tell you because I value our friendship. I haven't told you how I felt before because ... or it's uncomfortable to tell you about something that's upsetting me because I'm worried about ... and you'd say what's making you angry. And then our personal favorite takeaway from our research and what we will no doubt be playing in our heads the next time we come up against one of these tough situations is dignity over politeness.
Yeah, because that's the one that stuck out to me, because I'm like, I'm a people pleaser in certain situations too much. Like in some situations I am not. And I'm like, but in certain scenarios, I've noticed that about myself where I'm like, I'm too concerned about how other people might feel to really stand up for myself or really, and they're very specific situations. Cause then there are things I look at and I'm like, I had no problem there, but some I do. And I'm like, okay, if it comes down to, I just need to remember that, like, dignity over politeness. Yes. We're just taught to be polite and quiet and not angry.
Yeah. It is so, I don't know. It's sad, but I think there's some power in how much women have been able to be strategic in social situations. And I think, you know what's so interesting too, this is reminding me of, is Real Housewives and why Real Housewives is so popular. And really when it gets down to it, because by surface level, it's just a bunch of catty women, drama and, table throwing and glasses throwing. But at the end of the day, what it really is watching women strategize their social situations.
In really unhealthy, immature ways.
Yes, but also in healthy, immature ways. Like you'll see, it'll run a gamut, and you'll see them fuck up and be petty, but then you'll also they learned from it, and then they're just like, this is actually the better way to do it, and they'll do the dignity over politeness, or they'll be passive aggressive. You know what I mean? No one's perfect. It's a roller coaster. And when you think that they've, humbled themselves completely, they'll fuck up again, just like we all do, but for our entertainment. But it is interesting. And I think that's why I love it so much, because it reminds me of how I've learned to maneuver myself in social situations among women, among men, whatever. And it's important, and it's important to learn from it, and important to not beat yourself up over when you fuck up and you get petty. Because we all do it. Yeah, we do. All fucking do it. Like, no one is immune to this. Yeah. You've been messy and you've been petty, and people have been messy and petty towards you. I think every situation is learnable. Every situation where you're challenged, whether in a petty way or in a productive way, is a gift. Like we went over. Right. You just have to kind of be smart about how you sort through it. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like knowing yourself to a degree, and then also just
there's a quote, I think it's like Socrates, actually, but it just says, be as you wish to seem.
Yeah.
And I've always liked that because it's like, when you think about, just project yourself later down the road of your life and say we do have daughters, right? And we're trying to help her through a situation. And it's like, I would love, like, that story I told you about how I stood up to that girl in high school where I was like, why are you doing? I would love to say that this is how I handled these situations.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to tell her, like, I did this one time. You need the stories where you did the wrong thing too, but I think like taking a step back and being like, when I tell a story of how I acted in a situation like this or something that I went through later in life, what character do I want to be? Like,
yes.
what do I want to be, the one that just like fired off a passive aggressive text or did some shady thing on Instagram? Or do I want to be the woman that was like, called that person and was like, hey, can we talk about this? Or, hey, I feel, who do I want to be?
Yeah, it's such a dilemma that like, it's really hard. So like, again, don't beat yourself up if you're not always going to be the model person, but it is something so good at the end of the day to remember, because especially if you are raising somebody, like, it's really hard to be the do as I say, not as I do type of person, because we've known from having mothers that that's not the case. Like we will pick up things from them that we didn't think they would. And they're dealing with their own internalized misogyny and their own journeys from when they were growing up. So it's
they're
like,
trying to like reverse things that happened to them. But meanwhile, things are also happening to us.
Yeah. And like everything's shifting and how bullying happens and how it's more online now than it used to be. And there can be more like sub posting. I forget that's how to call it. Like subtweeting.
Oh, subtweeting,
yeah, like that happens now. And like we're all gonna have our shit at all time. I think grace, dignity, passion, remembering that hurt people, and that like at the end of the day you could be that hurt person, because that was me when I became a mean girl, or joined the mean girls, because I was hurt. I was bullied for things. So I was like, my survival was I'm going to join them and become complicit.
Exactly.
Because I was hurt.
Yeah. Like I got out of that. Thank God I'm out. I'm not going to put myself back in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, this is like, maybe we need an hour. Yeah, two-parter.
I know. Cause I should bring in the other girls.
Oh my God. I should reach out to these. Maddie, what's up?
Molly, I'm so sorry. Gorgeous girl.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
Oh, you too?
I was like, what?
No, the girl.
The other Molly, yes.
Ugh, God.
I was so confused.
Anyway, well, I hope you enjoyed that episode.
Yeah. Yes. Also, please send in, we'll never blast your name if you don't want it to be anonymous, but your mean girl stories, whether you were the mean girl or you experienced this, because also if we get enough submissions, it could be like a mini episode of sharing your stories. Because I think the more you hear of other women's experiences, you realize like it's not just women that look like me that get treated this way, or it's not just women that look like that treat people this way, or the whole
all walks of life.
Yes.
So please reach out to us. So follow us on Instagram at the SOS Pod. Follow us on Twitter at the SOS Pod. YouTube SOS with Molly and Alyssa. So subscribe to us there. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. I'm like, so 2005 on Apple Podcasts,
MySpace.
Spotify. Get us on MySpace.
Page us.
On Zanga, find our blog. Fax us at.
Also check out our Tumblr. I love Tumblr.
Oh my God, I love Tumblr. Anyway, and rate and review us as well. It helps us reach more people. And we also have a Patreon.
Yes, Patreon.
You can get exclusive content, merch, the opportunity to suggest episode subjects, topics. I was going to say titles.
Titles, or that,
yeah.
I'm Molly Cottrell.
I'm Alyssa Rosano.
Here's to turning meltdowns
into magic.